this video, I'm going to be reviewing Turkey and the Wolf by Mason Hereford. If you don't know about Mason, Mason owns 2 restaurants in New Orleans. His most famous restaurant, Turkey and the Wolf, was awarded the Best American Restaurant by Bon Appetit magazine in 2017. Hereford has worked in many restaurants around the country, including San Francisco and Charleston, but eventually settled in New Orleans in 2008. I found out about Mason on Iron Chef. On Netflix, there is a new Iron Chef called Iron Chef Quest for an Iron Legend, which premiered on Netflix on June 15th, 2022. I think it's a really fun episode. I would check it out. The entire Iron Chef show is a bit cheesy, but I like watching the new Iron Chefs who take on the more established Iron Chefs. They tend to be a little more creative and push boundaries more than the other established Iron Chefs.
All that noise over there!
Going back to Mason, he grew up in a town outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. He grew up in a rural area, but moved to New Orleans once he got out of college. Kind of started off at the bottom as a doorman, and then moved up to the kitchen, and moved up to chef of the cuisine. Later in 2016, he opened up his own restaurant, Turkey and the Wolf, done very well since. He likes doing a very playful twist on food, using many ingredients that we ate as kids without questioning the nutrition label. You know, stuff like American cheese or Bluebell ice cream or graham crackers. Just really sugary, fatty, salty supermarket food. His restaurant, Turkey and the Wolf, which is the same name as the cookbook, is kind of a refined Americana restaurant. I've never been, but just kind of seeing the videos and pictures of the food. There's just very creative concepts and unique approaches to sandwiches, classic American dishes, you know, like corn dogs and stuff like that. So going on to the book has a lot of creative ideas, but I don't think most of the recipes feel like a practical everyday way to cook. Some of the recipes can kind of be overly complex. For example, one of the gripes I had was the shredded recipe. In reality, it's just a shredded lettuce recipe, but every time a recipe calls back to this, it just says shreddish. I think this could be a little confusing if I haven't looked at the book in a while and I kind of forget what shreddish is. Also, with the shreddish recipe itself, I think it would have been really beneficial if there are some images there to show you how to make the shreddish. He describes it through words how to shred the lettuce, but it's something really basic and also very important to many of the recipes. I would have really liked to see pictures on how to do it. It would have been really beneficial. Going back to the recipes, they're really fun and playful, using many elements of nostalgia and childhood for the recipes. I think these could be fun for a party or to try out, but I can't really see myself making these recipes consistently. There are some in there that I think could be really good. Like I tried out making the biscuits and they turned out very delicious. This is a recipe I'll probably hold on to. Just to me, this seems like a good cookbook if you want to find 1 of 5 recipes to kind of keep around. You might ignore the rest because they're kind of impractical, or maybe they just might be too out there for you. This cookbook is very creative. I think it's a really good way to get ideas, say if you want to start a restaurant or make up some recipes. Mason goes very far out there on how he constructs a recipe and how he tackles, you know, his vision for a food. To me, the theme is kind of like if Southern food met a Brooklyn hipster. Also, I think sometimes some recipes can be a little too simple. Like the bologna sandwich recipe is just a bologna sandwich. There's no recipe on making your own bologna, what kind of bologna you should use. Also, I was disappointed not to find a bread recipe because he uses sandwiches a lot, and it would have been great to have some kind of like sandwich loaf bread recipe. He recommends using thick sliced toast from the grocery store. I don't know if that plays into his theme of using American grocery store ingredients, or he didn't want to have his bread recipe in the book. Also, the bologna sandwich recipe uses salt and vinegar potato chips. He definitely makes his own salt and vinegar potato chips here. I wish he could have included that. I really love salt and vinegar potato chips, but I haven't found anything that could be as good as maybe restaurant quality, and it could be something interesting to learn. I don't think I would make salt and vinegar chips consistently, but I kind of wish he added that. If it's the most popular sandwich at his restaurant, I at least want to try to be able to make it, you know? Not having this chip recipe kind of takes away from the uniqueness of the bologna sandwich recipe, because in the end, it's just going to be Oscar Mayer bologna, Lay's salt and vinegar chips, and generic Texas toast bread. I don't see anything super special about that. So recipes just kind of either feel like there's too much effort or too little effort. Other ones, such as the ice cream sundae, it's just crushed up Snickers ice cream bars, whipped cream, and a cherry. And consistently, this cookbook has a lot of those kinds of recipes where it's just simple recipes, such as the McCaviar, which is just caviar on a hash brown. Just feels kind of like, I don't think I really want to eat this. I can kind of see the idea behind it being a little more creative with generic stuff, but to me that's just not very interesting on a cookbook. I kind of go in a cookbook and get unique perspective on things, unique techniques, something I might not even think about. To me, this book has really great ideas, but I just think the actual cookbook itself is alright. The other issue I had with is kind of the typography and the naming of things. A lot of the names of the recipes are kind of, very out there there and unique. Names such as the Catfish Blues doesn't really give me an idea what it is. I mean, really it's just grilled catfish, but it's a kind of a book that's trying to be a little bit too creative. I kind of think it just need to pull it back a bit and kind of ground itself a little more. Going back to the typography, it has a very kind of 60s psychedelic look to it that can kind of hurt it a bit because it's kind of hard to sometimes read the lettering in titles, or it can be a little confusing just trying to figure out what you're actually trying to read sometimes. Some issues I had with the recipes were with the meatloaf. It doesn't tell you what kind of meat to get. It just says ground beef. That could be 80-20, 90-10, you know. I think it meant 80-20, but it's usually better to put that. The baking recipes don't have any weights. This was kind of difficult for the biscuits. The biscuit flour wasn't weighted, and the biscuits I ended up making were too salty because he used Diamond Kosher and I used Morden Kosher salt, which do have a difference in weight. This could have been really fixed up if you just said the amount of weight for salts. Also with the crab cake I made, it was also too salty, but it was pretty tasty. I think these recipes are more for a restaurant where they're high fat and high salt. I can't see myself making these recipes every day for the home. You know, they're really good once in a while, but this would kind of get to me over time. I do like the stories between the recipes. Those are always really fun. I didn't really see anything that I thought would be really helpful or insightful to actually cooking, but they're fun tidbits about his life and what he's gone through. Overall, I think this cookbook is pretty fun, and I think if you want a very out there and interesting cookbook, you should pick this up. But if you're looking for something that will help you make a sandwich better or give you different cooking techniques, I wouldn't really recommend this book. It's just not there. It's not changing how I view cooking or sandwiches or anything interesting like that. I'm giving this book a 5 out of 10.